Hi, my name is Stavros. I'm the author of The Tome of Six, Book 1 of The Fateful Force, and today we have another Warbow versus Gambeson video. If you haven't seen my previous video, the link will be in the description. I used two bows, a 55-pound bow and an 87 to 93-pound warbow against various samples of Gambeson. And in this video, we're going to revisit that test, but this time we're going to be using some wrought iron heads. In my last video, we used a range of Will Sherman and Hector Cole period heads, type 16s, needles, armor penetrators, Crecy's, chip and hand type 1s. There's a few arrowheads that we did use, and they'll be all in that previous video. In this video, Will Sherman has sent me some new arrows, and these ones have been crafted with wrought iron heads. So I'll go through the arrows real quickly to show you what we're going to be comparing. We're going to be trying to do like with the previous video with the new wrought iron heads. They're not identical, but they're pretty closely matched, and I'll explain that. So the first arrow we have is a Will Sherman needle bodkin. It is a square profiled bodkin. Okay, much the same as in our previous video, we used this Shire Archery one, which is also a needle bodkin. Okay, but this one has been machined and it's made of steel. It's not wrought ironed. Okay, however, in terms of the profiles and the type of arrows, including the weights of the arrows, all these arrows are between 700 and 800 grains. We'll be putting those through the bow against the Steel Mastery Gambeson sample, which is 30 layers of linen, but it was the best performing linen sample we had from our previous test. Okay, we'll be redoing the old arrows as well as the new arrows, which are the wrought iron heads, so we can get a on the day type of comparison. Okay, we also have these type 9s. These are Will Sherman, again, wrought iron type 9s, and the profiles of them are very, very similar to the Hector Cole Crecy's. So it'd be interesting to see how these compare. Now, these aren't perfectly matched again. The wrought iron ones are a little bit thinner, so based on that, there's less material to push aside when they do impact. However, they are a little bit lighter as well, and the heavier arrows do tend to produce more energy, so maybe that's going to offset it, but that's the best comparison I have for these type of arrows. Then we have type 16s, a wrought iron one here. I've only got one of these, and two steel, mild steel ones crafted again by Will Sherman. Okay, so we'll see how these go. First arrow is going to be the Shire Archery needle, 710 grain. Again, we explained in our last video that what I am going to be doing with these arrows, when they stick in, I'm going to be marking where they are flush to the Gambeson sample, and then I'm going to be subtracting the compressed value thickness of this sample. Now, this sample here has a compressed value of 10.5 millimeters. So go have a look at my previous video. You'll see in more depth how I do tackle that. But for this arrow, the first hit with the Shire Archery one, it has gone a total of 49 millimeters, so 47.5 millimeters. And let's hit it again. Shire Archery needle. This one is 770 grain. Yep, this one is 55 millimeters, so 44.5 millimeters past the Gambeson. Again, now let's try the Will Sherman needles. Now, these Will Sherman needles are shorter. However, the thickness of the square section is pretty comparable to the Shire Archery ones. I believe at the thickest point, the Will Sherman ones are about 6.5 millimeters, and at the thickest point of the Shire Archeries, they're about 6.8 millimeters. They're slightly thinner, they are shorter. How much of a difference that's going to make, I don't think it's going to make much of a difference, because it's got to push aside same amount of material. However, one's wrought iron, the other one is steel, and they are, like I said, pretty closely matched in weight, so they should be able to produce the same amount of energy. Okay, Will Sherman needle, 763 grain. That is stuck in. Let's go check it out. Okay, so we got that one out of the target, and that one was about 69 mils. So we're looking at 58.5 mils past the Gambeson. Okay, next one is 800 grain, so the heaviest of the Will Sherman wrought iron heads. That's stuck in as well. Okay, something really interesting is happening with these iron heads. When they get stuck into the Gambeson, they don't want to come out. Now, I took a shot that's not on camera, but you'll see the head is stuck in there from a shot that I took previously. I didn't count that arrow because I'll come and show you why. It hit the trimming of the Gambeson as you can see here, it's on the trimming on the side, which I think is an extra couple layers. However, this one over here, as you can see, I tried to get this one out and trying to pull it out, the actual came loose from the actual shaft itself. They're getting stuck in really, really well, and they're not coming out. They don't seem to be going deeper than the Shire Archery needles, but when they do go into this Gambeson particularly, they don't want to come out, and that is really, really interesting. I want to see if that continues. Okay, finally got that one out. This one has gone 50 mil, so take away 10.5 mils for the compressed value of the Gambeson, so we're looking at about 39.5 mil of penetration with this one. I'm actually going to hit it one more time with the Will Sherman arrow. Okay, that's stuck in. Let's go check it out. Okay, again, that one was really hard to get out. This one looks like to have gone about 71 mils. So we're looking at 59.5 mil past the Gambeson. I've actually had to get a knife and actually cut that one out. This is really, really interesting. It's something I didn't really anticipate, didn't anticipate. There's something about the iron that's actually just grabbing the material and it's just getting wedged in there to the point where I have to cut them out. I hit it one more time with this needle. I know I'd said one more time the time before. Okay, that's gone in 54 mil, so we're looking at 43.5 past the Gambeson. So maybe the iron heads are penetrating a little bit less than the Shire Archery ones. There's not enough data to say that definitively, but they're in the ballpark. They're not performing too dissimilarly. They're quite comparable. The weight of the arrow, the thickness of the actual points, even though these are shorter, I feel they are comparable and they're performing somewhat in a similar fashion. So let's move on. We'll hit it with a couple Crecies and then we'll hit it with the Will Sherman iron, wrought iron type 9s. So first Crecy is going to be 950 grains. This is a heavy one. So the Crecy heads are, like I said, a little bit chunkier, even though they're the same shape as the type 9s. So let's hit it. Oh, I should say that we didn't get penetration on these against this Armour sample in our last test, but let's see how we go now. Okay, it is important to note that with our last test with these exact same arrows, the Crecies, they were actually penetrating quite a number of layers. One of them was actually sticking out of the Gambeson and it got stopped at about the 4th last layer. So these probably do have potential to penetrate. We saw these penetrate the other Gambeson sample really, really easily. This one has gone 77. So we're looking at 66.5. That's actually stuck in. We weren't getting these results with our last test, but it's interesting to note. Let's go see how far it's gone in. 80 millimeters. So we're looking at 69.5 millimeters past the Gambeson. That's interesting. We got no penetration on these in our last test. Let's hit it again, actually. Same arrow, just to get some more base lines before we hit it with the type 9s. Again, that's gone in. Again. So 80 millimeters, 69.5 with the Crecies. That's interesting, actually. That time it bounced. It is what it is. I can't explain these results, to be honest with you. That felt like I definitely got the 28 inches. You know, I'm going to hit it again anyway. That is stuck in. Okay, again, we've hit that. 79 millimeters, so 69.5 past the Gambeson. I know I said one more time. It's too addictive. Let's hit it again with another Crecy. 950 grain. It's definitely stuck in again. Again, very similar to before. We're looking at 79 mils again. So we're looking at, 68.5 mils past the Gambeson. Pretty consistent. When this does penetrate, it's penetrating pretty consistently. I'm estimating this has got to be over 65 joules of energy, closer to 70 for this weight arrow. And it's penetrating on this test, whereas the last test it wasn't. There are variable results. I don't know what they are. I mean, the difference isn't massive. One did bounce out of the Crecy. And the ones that are penetrating, yeah, they're penetrating. You don't want to get hit by these, but it's not massive penetration past the Gambeson. But I suppose it is what it is. I'm going to try the Type 9s now. They're a little bit lighter, so I don't think they'll produce the same amount of energy as the 950 grain arrow. The heavy arrows tend to, you know, in a speed versus weight type of scenario, they end up producing more energy and more momentum behind the arrow because they are heavier. Let's see how these Type 9s perform. That most definitely bounced off. Let's hit it again. 630 grain on this one. Definitely bounced off again. Okay, 630 grain wrought iron Type 9 again. Definitely bouncing off. Okay, Type 9 again. 630 grain on this one. Definitely a bounce. This one is 590 grain. Again, that was a good draw, just bouncing. It is what it is. So some really interesting results there. The Type 9s, which are a little bit thinner profile, they're the same shape as the Crecies. They were just bouncing off. Crecies this time round were going through. Not massive, but you're not going to want to get hit by that. You know, 60, I think it was 9 or 68 millimeters past the Gambeson into you. Yeah, that's not going to be fun, but it is what it is. Okay, let's do some Type 16s now. Will Sherman. So we've got 2 steel ones and we have 1 wrought iron head. So let's see how we go. We'll do the steel barbs first. That's actually stuck in. Nope, there was no penetration on that at all. So no hole at the back, definitely stuck into the Gambeson. Went through quite a few layers, but then was denied the full penetration through the Gambeson. So yeah, this one is, we're looking at about, yeah, 20 millimeters, 9.5 millimeters past the Gambeson. I'll hit it again. I should have said that one was 769 grain. We'll hit it with another steel one, and this one is 748 grain. Yeah, that one's definitely bounced. I'm gonna hit it again though anyway. Ooh, that stuck and then fell out, so I don't think it penetrated at all actually. That's interesting. So we got 1 small penetration, but only, you know, 9.5 millimeters past the Gambeson. So let's hit it with the Will Sherman Type 16, but the wrought iron head. He's actually sharpened, whereas I couldn't sharpen mine. Just, I don't have the correct tools for it. So if they're not razor sharp, again, in my previous test, I sharpened all my broadheads, not to the point where they were razor sharp, gave them a bit of a, you know, a better edge to them to give them a better chance of penetrating. Sherman has sharpened this one. Let's see how this one performs. This one is 578 grains. That has gone in. Okay. Maybe it's to do with the sharpening. Possibly. Let me go check it out. Okay, we're looking at some really interesting results here. That did penetrate, didn't go super far, 70 mils. So we're looking at 59.5 millimeters into past the Gambeson, I should say. However, what's happened is the Type 16 barb has broken, not past the Gambeson, inside the Gambeson. Yeah, ended up breaking inside the Gambeson, trying to get it out. I'm gonna hit it again anyway, as is. There's only 1 barb left on it, and that barb seems to be damaged as well. The tip of that barb is missing, again, inside the Gambeson somewhere. That's actually some really, really interesting results. Let's hit it again though. So this is 578 grains minus a barb, whatever that is. Let's see if we can get penetration again. Definitely got penetration on that one. Okay, that one's gone similar depth as the other one, a little bit more, 73 millimeters. So we're looking at 62.5 past the Gambeson. I think that one, the barbs were just past the Gambeson, maybe a mil or 2. So yeah, that would have been worth a shot to take. I'm going to hit it again though. 500, sorry, and 78 grain, wrought iron, damaged, Type 16. Okay, that's definitely gone in. Okay, we've got a little less penetration on that one again, about 62 millimeters so 51.5 millimeters past the Gambeson. So we're looking at, again, if these were full barbs, yeah, maybe the barbs wouldn't have been sticking out the back. Let's hit it with something new. Got 3 arrows here. Now, I believe these are Type 8s. Wrought iron heads. I don't really have anything that's comparable to these. Maybe the square Shire Archery bodkins are somewhat comparable to these. These are a little bit more diamond instead of square section like the Shire Archery ones, but they seem to be somewhat comparable. The weight of these arrows are pretty similar to the Shire Archery square ones. I don't know, you draw your own conclusions if you think these are comparable, but I'm going to hit it, the Gamebeson, with these anyway, just to see how they go, because why not? Okay, so we have the Type 8s, 599 grain wrought iron. It's actually stuck in, actually, so let's go check it out. It doesn't look to have gone that far, so let's go mark it off and see how we went. Okay, that did not penetrate all the way through, so we'll try and hit it again. 599 grain. It's a miss, it's gone slightly wide, so we'll hit another one. This one is 580 grain, again, Type 8 wrought iron, Will Sherman. And what I'll do is I'm going to leave that one in there, I'll mark it off. We did it last time with our last test with one of the needles, just to see how far it goes into the foam before. I know this is not ballistic gel, but just to give us that kind of representation of if it doesn't hit material, what happens. Again, looks like the same as the earlier one. Stuck in, let's see if it penetrated. That one did not penetrate, much the same as the last one. Gets stuck into the Gambeson, but doesn't go all the way through the back. There's no hole at the back, so I'll put that away. However, this is the mark of when it hits just, I'll get a bit back there, where it hits the foam. Similar to what happened with the needles in our last test. They go pretty deep. Not as deep this one, but I guess the needle is a a thinner type head, so there's less surface area to push aside for penetration, but it's still gone pretty deep. 238 mils through the foam, I should say. Let's hit it again with a Type 8. Let's see how we go with our last one. 562 grain, Type 8 wrought iron, Will Sherman head. Definitely felt like I got a really good draw on that one. And again, I think it's done much the same as before. Might have penetrated. Let's go mark it off and see if it's actually penetrated the Gambeson. Again, there was no penetration. Again, it's getting stuck into the Gambeson. It's getting through maybe half the layers, maybe a little bit less actually on that one, but not really penetrating all the way to the back. So Type 8's definitely cutting in, but not going through. Surprise on the iron, Type 16. The steel ones weren't penetrating last test or this test. They were getting stuck in though, but they just weren't penetrating all the way through. The iron one was, but I think that's more to do with the fact that Will Sherman actually sharpened that before he sent it out to me, that the Type 16s, the steel ones, were not sharpened, and logically sharpened broadheads would say they'd cut through instead of forcing their way through textile type armors. The Crecy's performed better than they did last time today. Again, not massive, similar to the needles, but the Type 9s and the Type 8 iron heads didn't want to penetrate, and the Will Sherman iron needles did penetrate, very similar to the Shire Archery needles. Now, what do we take away from that? I don't know. They are the results that we did get. They are interesting nonetheless. We are seeing, again though, when we don't hit the Gambeson sample, how much these arrows do penetrate. Our last test, we got absolutely massive penetration with the needle. We got really deep penetration this time as well with the Type 8. So the Gambeson is definitely doing something to protect the user from a 87 to 93 pound bow that's producing, we'll say on average, about 65 joules of energy. And to give you a bit of context of that, 65 joules of energy on average, except for those lighter arrows, the ones that are sub 600 grain, they're probably producing closer to the 60 joule mark, 58, 59 joules. So they are producing slightly less energy. They're traveling faster, but they just don't have the weight behind them. And that could be a factor in the difference between the Type 9 iron heads versus the Crecy. But in terms of material, Difference in material, does it affect against textile armor? We're not really seeing much of a difference on these tests. We're definitely seeing some interesting results. Barbs on the Type 16s breaking on the iron heads. The needles are close to impossible to get out without cutting them out of the Gamebeson sample. But in terms of penetration, I don't think we're seeing any difference. And again, I'm not super surprised by that. The material we're hitting is much softer than the material we're hitting it with. Put your thoughts in the comments. Yeah, it is what it is. Thank you for watching this video, and stay tuned for our next video where we'll be doing some more tests.